What is going on, guys? It is WrestleGamia here, back with another video. Now, after a recent video on facts you didn't know about the original Smackdown game for PlayStation 1, it only seemed fair that we take a look at the same thing for the next game in the series. Smackdown 2 Know Your Role hit shelves less than a year after its predecessor, but make no mistake, this was not some quick rush job like some of the more recent games in the WWE 2K series. Reviews were universally positive, and gamers by and large deemed it an improvement in almost every aspect. Much like the original Smackdown game though, there are plenty of secrets about Know Your Role that you may still not be aware of after all these years, so be sure to subscribe and click that notification bell, because today we're going to look at 10 hidden secrets and Easter eggs you didn't know about Smackdown 2 Know Your Role. Number 1. Secret backstage areas. Fans of the game will remember being able to roam around backstage, getting involved in all sorts of chaos, but there were areas that some never would have gotten to use as they weren't immediately accessible. An example of this would be the secret shower room. Players would have to take their opponents up the backstage stairway during a Falls Count Anywhere match until they reached the locker room. They would then have to throw their opponent into the center of the locker room wall directly across from the gym equipment. This would then create a hole that would give them access to the secret area. Another one of these was the boiler room, which could be reached by heading into the basement and walking over the door covered by yellow keep out banners. If you Irish whipped your opponent into the grating directly to the right of the door, it would break open and provide a path to let you play out your own boiler room brawl. The third one was only accessible by playing Season Mode. After going through it for a while, a cutscene would appear where Michael Cole tells players that WWF New York will be opening in a month's time. Simply playing through a few more shows would trigger yet another cutscene, this time with Cole in the newly opened venue. From then on, whenever you went down to the basement during hardcore matches, WWF New York could be entered. Number 2. Secret moves. This one was one of those secrets that no doubt went around the schoolyard wherever you grew up. Did you know you could do the 3D if you played as the Dudley Boys? While many probably listened to their fans' instructions and gave up after a few failed attempts, it was actually quite easy once you knew how. To perform a 3D, you would have to select the duo in a tag team match. Once Devon was the legal man, you could Irish whip your opponent into your team's corner and press the up and circle button together. This would trigger the devastating finishing move. As well as that, you could also do the What's Up headbutt. To do this, you would have to be playing with Bubba Ray as the legal man and complete the same actions as previously, this time being able to execute the infamous headbutt to the groin. Number 3. Hidden characters. There were more than a few hidden characters to be found in Smackdown 2 Know Your Role, and no, we're not talking about the unlockables you would get from playing through Season Mode. Both Jeff Jarrett and Goldust were originally intended to be in the preceding game Smackdown for PlayStation 1, but they however left for WCW before its release. In Know Your Role, you can still create both characters in the game's Create a Wrestler mode after unlocking all the Create a Wrestler items. Jeff Jarrett's theme is still being used in the game by his former manager Deborah, while his moveset was listed under Unknown G. Two other wrestlers who were supposed to be in the game were The Big Show and Ken Shamrock. Big Show was removed as part of a punishment for failing to lose weight, and Shamrock would go back to the world of MMA. Both characters would still occasionally appear in the Royal Rumble matches, and though they wouldn't be named, they would both have the same movesets and appearance as their real-life counterparts, and could even be controlled by the player. Number 4. Missing cutscenes. If you're a UK fan, then you certainly wouldn't have seen this one, as it was only available in the American version of the game, and even then only under very specific circumstances. Looking into the game's files, a file could be found on the disc which contained hundreds of unused cutscene titles. They include members of the D-Generation X faction, kidnapping a character in their DX truck, the announcement of a character starring in a television show/commercial, the announcement of an engagement/marriage between two characters, and the player's declaration of the 24-hour hardcore rule upon winning the WWF Hardcore Championship. It's a shame we'll never get to see some of these, as they sounded like they would have made the season mode even more fun than it already was. Number 5. How to unlock everything. There were many unlockables in Smackdown 2 Know Your Role, and getting them all was no easy feat. It would take players a while, but for those who were committed enough, this is what you had to do to unlock everything. To play as Billy Gunn, you would have to reach the King of the Ring in Year 1, where his character would first show up and fight in the tournament. Similarly, Cactus Jack would first appear at the SmackDown Before No Way Out in Year 1, and after the pay-per-view would be available to play as in-game. Deborah's inclusion will also come after a bizarre cutscene where she asked Vince McMahon to be in a beauty contest at Year 1's Royal Rumble. We won't go through each one in detail because you get the idea, but you could also unlock the Mean Street Posse and Michael Cole after WrestleMania, Shawn Michaels after Judgment Day, Stone Cold Steve Austin after Backlash, and Pat Patterson and Gerald Briscoe after Fully Loaded. Later you could unlock an in-game commercial for the, at the time, upcoming WrestleMania 2000, as well as more creator wrestler parts and match types such as Tornado Tag Team Tables matches. For those who didn't have the patience, there was an even quicker way by simply skipping matches in season mode instead of playing through every one of them. Number 6. Floating on air. A fun glitch in the game allowed players to float above the ground as if they were flying. In order to do this, you would have to select a Falls Count Anywhere or Hardcore match and go up to the top of the entrance ramp where the pits lay at either side of you. You would then have to throw your opponent at them or have your opponent throw you at them. If done correctly, one of you would roll sideways and be elevated high up in the air. It looked ridiculous but was fun to experiment with. Just don't touch your opponent afterwards if you're going to get back to try this one out, or they'll immediately plummet back down to earth. Number 7. Secret weapons. As well as secret areas and characters, there were also a bunch of secret weapons scattered around the game that could be found under the right circumstances. Soda machines were available in various backstage areas, and in order to get a free can that can be used as a makeshift weapon, you just had to Irish whip your opponent into the machine, causing one to fall out. Similar things would happen if you whipped your opponent into telephone booths and fire extinguishers, which would drop phones and firefighting equipment respectively. If players went into the first or second rooms on their left immediately after entering the backstage area, they would hear the sound of glass smashing and would return with a mop. Also, microphones and steel chairs could be found in the locker room, couches and potted plants could be used as weapons in Vince McMahon's office, and hospital gurneys were available in the loading area, the same spot where you could whip your opponent into an ambulance, causing its light to flash and siren to sound. In the kitchen, stoves would light up if whipped into, and frying pans could be used to beat your opponent, and perhaps most shocking of all, if you were to wrestle in the outside area, amongst beating your opponent with shopping trolleys or park benches, you could even be run down by a car. This gives us bad flashbacks of Rikishi doing it for The Rock, and it's crazy to think that vehicular homicide was actually possible in a WWE licensed game. Number 8. Hidden credits. Most people understandably don't have the time or patience to sit through the in-game credits, but those who did would have gotten a secret message for fans, as well as something that for a WWE product was surprisingly inclusive towards outside wrestling styles. The message read as follows: a special thanks to the millions and millions of sports entertainment wrestling, puroresu, and lucha libre fans who, like us, have grown up watching this great sport and pastime rise to the top, overcoming many obstacles set before it. Also, to all of those who have stuck by our side and remained loyal to the fans in order to make the game for the fans, we appreciate all of you and realize that without you, this game would not be possible. Thank you. It's no Marvel post-credit sequence or anything, but it's a nice little addition regardless. Number 9. Removed and hidden creator wrestler heads. Now if you manage to buy a GameShock or any other similar cheating device, it's possible to insert a code and replace a few of the heads in the original section of the Creator Wrestler mode, and it reveals a number of superstars and legends. Andre the Giant, The Big Show, Ken Shamrock, Sergeant Slaughter, a head that could possibly be Bob Backlund or Pat Patterson, and Jerry the King Lawler. It's pretty crazy that if this is Bob Backlund, this would be his only and ever appearance in a licensed WWE game. Number 10. A different video game is present in the game? Well, it's not quite a playable game, but a leftover video found in the dummy files for WWE Smackdown 2 Know Your Role. It's a tutorial video from a game known as Evil Zone, which Ukes made prior to the WWF Smackdown games. The developers must have forgotten to remove it from the directory, as nothing else can be found, but it's a pretty odd find. Thank you to Crash and Cortex for the video. But there you have it guys, a look at 10 hidden secrets and Easter eggs you didn't know about Smackdown 2 Know Your Role. Be sure to leave your comments down below, subscribe if you haven't already, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling video game content.